What's up everybody, it's Anaru, and we're going to go ahead and kick off the second episode of the Halo Reach Bootcamp. I do apologize for the delay between the first and the second episode, but I'm going to be trying to upload a lot more often now. I'm going to try to at least get one episode of this series up every other day until at least the map portion is finished. But today's episode, we're going to go over a short title update explanation and also generalized tips to help you be more consistent in matchmaking. Before we get into all that though, we're going to go over a brief overview of the last episode of the bootcamp, which was helping you figure out what type of player you are. Now that's not really a decision I can make for you, that's just sort of something you have to take a look at your own gameplay, recognize how you're playing to see if, you like to be more passive or aggressive. But once again, if you are an aggressive player, the main power weapons that I think you should be focusing on are getting good with the shotgun and the sword, and rockets, especially if you can get your hands on those, because that's a very good rushing weapon. Learn the spawn system is the second biggest thing that will help you out if you're an aggressive player. A really good tip for doing this would be to load up whatever map you're having problems with in the Forge world. Fly around the map in the little monitor mode, look at where all the spawns are and things like that. And then to sort of give a second part to that, whenever you're playing on that map, every time you die, take note of where you died, and then take note of where you respawned, so that way you know after such amount of practice that if you kill somebody in a certain spot, you know where they're going to respawn. The third biggest thing for an aggressive player is to make sure that you're focusing a lot on your map movement. A lot of aggressive players tend to think that charging straight into the enemy is the best strategy when it's not. It's much better for you to know how to work your way completely around the map, and it's always better to come up behind or beside your enemy rather than going head-on if you're an aggressive player. If you tend to flank and you come up behind an enemy, even if there's 2 or 3 of them, they're going to have to turn around. You can put a frag in them and take out multiple enemies before they can turn to take you out. It's always better as an aggressive player to approach your enemy from behind or beside. It makes it a lot more safe for you, and you'll have a lot more fun getting the multi-kills that way. Now, on the other hand, if you're a passive player, you also need to focus on your power weapon control, but the type of weapons that you focus on are a little bit different. Main staple weapons of passive players are like the sniper rifle, the grenade launcher, even a plasma pistol can be used as a very good tool for a passive player. Pretty much passive players stick to anything that can be used from range, any power weapon that can be used from range, because your general idea is to not get in too close of combat with people. You prefer to stay back and pick them off from a range. Positioning is the next biggest thing. Same kind of tip as the learning spawns for the aggressive player. You can go in Forge World and kind of look at different areas of the map, see where might be a good place to patrol or just watch. And the third biggest thing for a passive player is they need to learn the map so that they can escape. Staying alive is probably your biggest thing as a passive player, and it's the thing that I think is best in my personal repertoire as a passive player. Staying alive is very annoying to the aggressive players that are going to rush you, because they are going to rush you. That's their main thing, is they want to get up in your face. But if you're able to pull off an escape, staying alive is very helpful. You're no use to your team dead, so being able to get away, and even if you're not able to pick up a kill off of it, it's still beneficial, especially in Team Slayer, where it's all about who has less deaths than the other team. Staying alive can also be turned into an offensive tool, because you can sort of make an escape, go around a corner, set up a trap with either a frag grenade, or if you happen to have a shotgun or something on you, if that aggressive player rushes you, which probably about 8 times out of 10 they're going to, you can even turn a bad situation into a kill, or you can just try to stay alive long enough for one of your teammates to help you out. Call out that some guy's chasing you, where he's chasing you to, and hopefully a teammate can come over and help cut him off for you. But those are the main things that I went over in the last episode of the bootcamp. That's just a quick breakdown of it. But here now we're going to get into the actual title update explanation and the generalized tips that I have for you guys. You're going to be watching some free-for-all gameplay, because I think Rumble Pit and free-for-all is probably the type of gameplay that shows off the most personal skill, since it's all about you versus everybody else. And there's 2 gameplays that I'm going to put in this. The first one is going to be probably the uncaged mats. It's a is before the title update went to the Rumble Pit, so it's 100% Bloom, and it's a little bit more aggressive. There are some times where I play passive in it, but it's a little bit more of an aggressive game. And then I have like my traditional passive style in a title update free-for-all on Zealot, but we're going to go ahead and kick off the tips. So the first thing we're going to go over is a really quick explanation of the title update settings. I know a lot of you guys already know what it is, but there's still a lot of people who, well, a smaller group of people that don't. Basically, the title update has done two things. It reduces the amount of bloom or reticle expansion every time that you fire a shot by 15% for all weapons, and it allows for damage bleed through. Now, the 15% reduction in bloom actually speeds up kill times is the main thing that it does. Even if you were to spam, say, the DMR the first 4 shots to pop somebody's shields, your reticle would be roughly 40% smaller than it was in stock reach because it has a 15% reduction off of each shot. And that allows for a little bit more accuracy, faster kill times. It's still better to pace rather than spam, but you can pace a lot quicker than you used to be able to with stock reach because the bloom is nowhere near as severe. Like I said, it's roughly 40% more accurate after your 4th shot. And the damage bleed through is basically Halo 3's system, and for anybody that's never played Halo 3, it just basically makes it so that there's no wasted damage in reach anymore, as I like to call it. A Spartan has 100 shields and 100 health if you wanted to put numerical values on it, and what would happen is in stock reach when there was no bleed through, say they had just 1% shield left and the DMR does 25 damage a bullet since it takes 4 shots to pop the shield, it would be wasted damage to shoot them with the DMR because you would pop their shield and that would be all that would happen. It would just take away the 1 damage, and that extra 24 that you should have done just disappeared. It was basically just wasted. Now, with bleed through, that doesn't happen. Say if some guy has 90 shield left, you shoot him 3 times, he has 15 left, and even if the 4th shot is not a headshot, which would actually bleed through and kill the guy, even if it's not a headshot, it just means that if you shoot him in the body for that 4th shot, it will pop the shield, and that that extra 10 damage that was left over will go to the health. That's basically all the bleed through does, is it makes it so there's no more wasted damage. It also got rid of a really annoying problem that most people hated with Reach, where people were having a much more effective time just sprinting and meleeing twice in close range, because you could actually sprint up to somebody and smack them twice in close range faster than you could shoot 4 times and then melee. And that was a really big problem, and the title update fixes that, because while that guy is sprinting at you now, you can fire 3 shots and then melee to kill, because as I said, the DMR does 25 damage a bullet, and a melee counts as 125, so 3 shots is 75 damage, and then you have your melee for 125 is 200, so that grants you a kill. You can actually get certain circumstances where meleeing will grant you a kill without you having to put 3 in. That's mainly if the person is red health, because each one of those little bars that's underneath your shield represents 10 health. Say if they have like 1 or 3 left, it usually recovers to where they have 30 health left. Even if they had full shields, at that point you would only have to melee them 1 time, or shoot them 1 time and then melee to grant the kill. It's kind of hard to tell. Well, really, there's no way to tell whether or not how much health somebody has unless you physically, saw them got hit by a nade or something like that and then recover. But as a general rule of thumb, if you shoot at somebody and you see that their shield's already weakened, then just take 2 or 3 shots at the body and then place 1 on top of the head, and you'll most likely get the bleed through kill. But that's just a quick explanation. That's all it really does. Is the title update reduces the bloom, and it sort of adds Halo 3 style combat systems. So now we're going to get into the actual tips. The first thing up that I would say that would help you is make sure that you're in the right mindset whenever you're getting ready to go on and play. Now, I know this sounds like a little bit more serious, but I'm not saying don't have fun. You can always laugh and things like that when funny stuff happens, but try to keep yourself in a positive mindset. You don't want to be in the point of like, oh, this game's over, just let's lose it or whatever, just because you're down by like 5 kills. You can always make a comeback for something like that. Just try to always keep a positive outlook and you'll play better. That's pretty much the same with any FPS game. And try to remain calm as much as possible, because sometimes you might see a guy come around a corner and it might startle you a little bit, but if you can remain calm, you'll have a much better time aiming. You won't have as many problems with your aim. You won't go off target as much. So just make sure you're trying to keep a positive mindset and that you try to remain calm as much as possible, even when stuff starts to get a little bit crazy. Another good thing that would help you out is try to have an opening route in mind before the match starts. You vote on the map, you see what map you're going to be playing, so you know what you're going to be playing as, and I'm assuming that everybody knows most of the maps pretty well by now, so try to have an opening route in mind, like even if it's just as basic as I'm going to go towards the sniper rifle. That'll help you out a lot. It's always better to have at least a generalized plan than just trying to rush around blindly. And the third thing is you want to time power weapons. That's another very good tip. Always try to time your power weapons. If you're not sure on power weapon timing, you can always go into the forge like I've suggested earlier, fly around the map, whatever map you're looking at, and I think it's X, you hit X on the weapons and it'll bring up their respawn timer and things like that. Rockets is always 3 minutes, even if it's in team doubles, it's always 3 minutes. Snipers are generally around 2 minutes, shotguns around 3 minutes, that type of thing, but you can always use the Forge World to find out exactly what the respawn timer is for everything on every map. Teammates. Whenever you're playing in a team game, always be aware of where your teammates are. That way you know if you need to make an escape, what direction to run to, that type of stuff. But also pay attention to their call signs. The call signs is that little thing that pops up over their head where it has numbers, letters. It's generally 3 to 4 letters and numbers mixed together. If their call sign turns yellow, that means that they're shooting at someone, and you should generally look in the direction that they're looking to find where the enemies are, because that's a very good way that you can find enemies and see where all the combat's taking place. Or if their tag turns orange, that means that they themselves are being shot at, and if you see that and you're in anywhere close to them, go over there and try to help your teammate out. You always want to be the best team player that you possibly can. Because like I said, nobody's useful to their team while they're dead, so try to save your teammates as much as possible. If you see that orange tag, run over there and try to help them out if you're anywhere close. Another thing is to use callouts if you know them. If you have any type of generalized callouts that you can use, that's very helpful for your team. A good callout is basically just letting them know where the enemy is, if he has a power weapon or not, and if he's weak. Say, for example, on Zealot, you could say that there's a guy that's one shot on blue landing, and he has, say, just for the fun of it, say he has a rocket launcher, so that call out would go like one shot blue landing with rockets. It's short, it's simple, but it gives the information across. If you don't know the callouts, I am going to be doing maps after I get through the basics here, so I will do callouts and stuff like that and all the map breakdowns. But if you know any callouts, always try to do that, because it helps out your team a lot. Strafing is another big thing that you need to concentrate on, and that's actually going to be the next episode of this boot camp. Make sure that you're always strafing. If you don't know what strafing is, it's any type of movement where you go generally back and forth, side to side, to try to dodge bullets, because dodging bullets helps out a lot, especially in a DMR battle. Every bullet that you make them miss and that you hit is a greater chance that you're going to end up with a kill. So always try to strafe, but like I said, next video is going to be a strafing video. I'll break down all the different types for you and show you how to just sort of mix it up, because the best type of strafe is one that's unpredictable. Refrain from doing the same thing too often is another very good tip. A lot of people are compelled that when they die, they feel the need to go right back to that place that they died at, and that's not always the best option, especially if you see that there's like 3 enemies there. Don't go off of respawn and just go right back to the same place and die again. Try to mix it up. You never want to get too predictable, otherwise the enemy team's going to know where you are and they'll just have an easier time picking you off. Always try to be unpredictable with strafing, anything, map movement. You don't want to go to the same place too often or they'll know that you're there. And also, in key with that, don't focus on one enemy for too long. If you see that you're in a DMR battle with somebody and let's say that he goes around a corner, well, not necessarily goes around a corner, but you just see that he disappears for a half second or something. Don't just keep standing, still looking at that guy, because that's most likely going to get your head ripped off by a sniper rifle or something. Don't focus on one guy for too long. If he's like bouncing in and out from behind the cover, then it's okay to keep fighting him. But if you see a guy go around a corner or something, don't just stand there and wait for him to come back out. Wait a second, and if he doesn't come back out, then shift your focus, because especially, like I said, if you focus on one person for too long, you're most likely going to get sniped, or somebody's going to sneak up behind you. Something's going to happen, so don't stay focused on one person for too long. And to go along with that, don't chase unless you're 100% sure that you're going to get that kill, because as I explained with the passive players, one of our main thing is we can turn a bad situation into a kill by setting up a trap for you, going around a corner, I mean dropping a frag, that type of stuff, or just setting you up with a shotgun. Yeah, don't chase unless you're absolutely positive you're going to get that kill. It's much better to just call that guy out and hope one of your teammates cleans him up. And probably the last and biggest thing that I can give you as a generalized tips is use your grenades strategically. There's a lot of people in this game that just spam frags everywhere, and while that can get you kills, it's not the best option. There's mainly 3 different types of ways that you can use your frags. You can use it in an aggressive manner, like with the rushing, and I call that strategy leading with a frag. Like if you know there's a guy around the corner and you're going to rush him, bounce that frag around the corner and then rush in, and then you might have the advantage. He might be at half shields or something while you're at full. You can use them preemptively, like you'll see a lot of me doing that in the Zealot gameplay with people coming up the lifts. I know where they're going to land, so I throw the grenade there, they land on it. It's a preemptive nade. I'm making them weak before the battle even starts. And then you can use your grenades defensively, which would be in a situation where you may be one shot, you go around a corner, and you think the guy's going to rush you. You can go ahead and drop a couple frags or a plasma or whatever around that corner, and he's either going to be stupid and walk over it and pretty much make himself weak, and then it becomes sort of like an even one-on-one fight, or it's going to work and he will be, less likely to rush you. Using nades defensively is a very good way to keep yourself staying alive, because most people, if they see you throw that frag, they're not going to rush in right away. That gives you a couple extra seconds to try to get your shields back. But those are just like some generalized tips that I can give you guys. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Reach Bootcamp, and the next episode, like I said, is going to be strafing tips, and then after we get out of the strafing tips, I'm going to be kicking it up to map breakdowns. But I'll talk to all of you guys later.